So, with T'Challa being mostly what I felt was an afterthought in the first season of Earth's Mightiest Heroes, it's as though the writers all the way back in 2011 were listening to me. Black Panther did get a few more things to do regarding this second season of Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and it was really nice to see, but in all honesty, he didn't really get a whole lot. While it's nice that I feel he got more than the previous season, I personally would have wished to see more, especially with how this season unfolds regarding the idea of trust, something that was hard for him to find. But for the start of the season, T'Challa is playing more or less the same role in the previous season, just being the stand-up guy that he is.
This is a trap. This is what Doctor Doom wants. For the Fantastic Four to come to him on his terms. If you charge in, you will be destroyed.
T'Challa spends a lot of the first few episodes of the first season doing more or less what he's pretty much always done, being the most level-headed member of the Avengers, being the least trusting member of the Avengers, but also the most pragmatic and one of the most intelligent members on the team when Bruce Banner isn't deciding to be Bruce Banner. We spend a lot of the early season with T'Challa and Captain America put together, as the two's relationship was shown to be very, very close in the previous season, and so now the two characters are continuing to be close as this season goes on. As well, we start to get different developments with T'Challa, such as him and Hawkeye developing a slightly closer friendship in the second season than they had previous. But outside of that, for the first few episodes, T'Challa is really just there to help fight bad guys and to help propel other characters' arcs, such as Captain America and Iron Man. That's really kind of what he's doing for these first few episodes, which is all well and fine if you're gonna truly give T'Challa, his own episode. But that doesn't really happen. Which again, I feel is kind of a shame, because the episodes that T'Challa, well, parts of episodes that he gets are really nice. For example, in the episode in which the Masters of Evil, the main villain group from the previous season, are all being hunted down by Amora the Enchantress because Baron Zemo betrayed her and she wants information on Baron Zemo's whereabouts, T'Challa plays a critical role in the ending of the episode. Baron Zemo ends up coming to the Avengers seeking asylum and refuge against Amora the Enchantress, since it's being implied that Amora is essentially killing all of his underlings. Again, implied because this is a kid's show and they can't really say that he did. And so T'Challa is of course tasked with trying to find a device to help depower Amora the Enchantress. And during his plight in trying to do said device, he ends up speaking with Wonder Man, and he is genuinely trying to convince Wonder Man to leave Baron Zemo. He is trying to convince him that he and Tony Stark both have the technology to properly take care of Wonder Man so that he doesn't have to be under Zemo's thumb any longer. Now granted, because of the way T'Challa is as a character, part of this may just be deception because Wonder Man is a hard person to fight and nobody really wants to fight him. But I do also believe that this is coming from a good place in T'Challa's heart. It's just that it would also benefit him if he didn't have to fight this dude, because T'Challa's already ran the ones with him, and it's not fun.
He has found a cure for you.
What?
Zemo is an evil man, Simon Williams. I do not believe that you are. We both know that Zemo is not going to surrender. Tell me, what do you think he is going to do?
And that's a layer of T'Challa's character that I really enjoyed. It was almost a sort of moral ambiguity that he had, because he was always willing to lie to his enemies in order to gain the advantage or the upper hand, even if it is seen as deceitful and sometimes wrong. And other times, even though he may be coming off as wanting to help as much as possible, again, it's that deceitful nature that is part of him intrinsically. I wish they would have done some more with that in this show, but they really don't. In the end, it was T'Challa's words that made Wonder Man sacrifice himself, and we see that T'Challa is actually very somber about this entire notion. As everybody else seems to be winning the day, T'Challa seems almost sad.
Because of Wonder Man. With the Norn Stone's power, the Enchantress may very well have been unstoppable. Wonder Man's sacrifice saved us all.
Do you think she's gone for good?
And I really wish they would have continued to go somewhere with this character idea, but again, T'Challa is kind of pushed to the side because this season is really jam-packed with other characters, such as Captain Marvel becoming a mainstay, so T'Challa once again takes a back seat to the rest of the cast, which is kind of cool, I guess, but him himself, I would have liked to see more out of. I understand that T'Challa as a character, typically as an Avenger, will always take a back seat and is kind of less involved with what the Avengers are doing and far more involved with Wakanda and his own home life and sometimes Storm. But for me, I hadn't gotten any Black Panther related media outside of comics since like that 2010 motion comic. So I really wanted more out of him, especially when I feel like a character like Hawkeye got more, well, screen time and development than Black Panther did in this season, even though I feel Black Panther has more to talk about in this season of the show, specifically towards the latter end of this season. Skipping forward a few episodes, I really enjoy this aspect of the show, which was showing the superheroes kind of doing their own thing and just hanging out. All well, T'Challa is on Hulk duty, because Hulk and T'Challa are like the polar opposites in this show, and typically T'Challa just doesn't feed into whatever bullshit Hulk is on for that day. So I really think that their character dynamic was funny, even if they're not paired together very often. But it is in this episode that it is revealed to us that the Skrull invasion has started to take place. At least it's revealed to the rest of the Avengers. We as the audience have known that the Skrull invasion was taking place due to the fact that we know Captain America was replaced by a Skrull at the end of the first season of Earth's Mightiest Heroes. So with Tony Stark now being privy to the information that Skrulls A exist, and that B, there is at least one confirmed Skrull to be on his team in the Avengers, this sends Tony sort of spiraling, and he doesn't know who he can and cannot trust, especially in his own team, which isn't exactly a good mantra for a character like Black Panther. Black Panther's whole idea and his whole Wakandan beliefs, something that he is very much going against being a part of the Avengers, is that he should not trust outsiders. He should only trust the people that were close to him, and he should only trust those of the elders and those that are Wakandan. And so him going out of his way to trust the Avengers and to open his people up to the world is going against the very traditions that have kept Wakandans safe for a majority of their lives. So for T'Challa to be told that there is a potential traitor on the team and that he can no longer trust these people that he has been putting his faith into since around episode 10 of the previous season, this is a big deal for him as a character. But what would T'Challa do in this situation exactly? And this is again where I feel like they followed the comics almost a little bit too hard with T'Challa as a character, because I believe this is exactly what he would have done. T'Challa just simply up and leaves the group, because he would much rather go focus on his home life. He is a king after all, and if he can't trust the Avengers, then there's no true point in him staying, so he just straight up abandons them.
You have to believe me, you know me.
Iron Man is correct. If the Skrulls truly are here, any of us could have been replaced at any time. Look at Ant-Man's recent behavior. Who is to say that the Ultron incident was not intentional?
Hey!
No one truly knows anyone. Not that well.
It's an idea that I wish was expounded upon more, but I kind of completely understand why. As I was writing this script and as I was continuing to make this video, I kind of came to the realization that, like I had said previously, this is just a very accurate representation of how T'Challa as a character treated the Avengers. He was very much like Batman in the sense that he would kind of just show up to Justice League stuff, but he wasn't really a member, and he was kind of a member sometimes, but other times not really, and he would just disappear for no reason because he's got other shit to do. And that's kind of just how T'Challa is in this show, and it is comic accurate. As much as I wish Black Panther was a bigger piece and proponent of the show because I love the character so much, it makes sense as to why he's not, and to why he continues to leave and go back to Wakanda. For example, in the following episode, all about the team getting back together with Captain Marvel at the helm, it's really revealed to be a bunch of Skrulls as the invasion has gone full circle. And while T'Challa does go out of his way to help the Avengers and help his people defend Wakanda, he has very little interest in going back to the Avengers at all, because once again, he feels that there is nothing there for him without any of the trust, something that I would find very realistic, especially because his trust was broken by one of the closest people to him, that being Captain America. Captain America was, for all intents and purposes, T'Challa's closest friend on the team, and so for that to be taken away from him is a huge deal.
No. My duty is here.
Are you kidding me?
What has changed? Even now, we can trust no one. Not even each other.
And that's kind of it for T'Challa, at least for a few more episodes. What I found really interesting about this season of EMH that doesn't just extend to T'Challa himself is a lot of characters just simply go missing for portions of episodes, which genuinely felt realistic. As much as it pains me to see the team break up, split up, sometimes have the full members, other times not, it's really interesting because it mirrors how the comics worked. Sometimes the characters were in the full swing of the team. Other times there were only bits and pieces of the team because that's what that issue called for. It was very realistic, and it also gave the show enough time to do a wide variety of coverage on characters. It's not something I know if I've praised this season for specifically, but it doesn't feel stupidly character heavy outside of, say, Captain America and Iron Man probably receiving the most story elements out of any character in the show. It feels far more balanced around the rest of the Avengers this season, and that came at the expense of Hulk getting less screen time, for example, or Iron Man himself getting slightly less. But in reality, it ended up giving us a wider variety of time with these new characters and these older ones as well. And I think they spent that time well with T'Challa, despite my initial misgivings of the fact that he just wasn't in this season as much as I wanted him to be. So I believe it's important and imperative for me to enjoy what's left of the second half of this season and his presence in it. And I want that to be in stark contrast to how I was speaking previously, and I want that to be known going forward for the rest of this video. The next time that we see T'Challa, it is his first official reunion with the real Captain America. And for the first time, T'Challa seems to be on good terms with the Avengers, inviting them to Wakanda and inviting Steve, hoping to fix his old broken shield. A way of not only helping to piece together Steve as a person, but also to help T'Challa heal some of the wounds regarding how the Avengers split up. Because while he might not show it physically or overtly, T'Challa was pretty hurt by the fact that he did lose friends in the Avengers, and was not exactly too keen on losing his friendship with Clint Barton, despite the two having almost completely opposite temperaments. Captain America really did go there, though, in hopes to recruit T'Challa once again, even if T'Challa was hesitant.
My responsibilities are to Wakanda. I will repair your shield as a gesture to a friend, but that is as far as it goes.
The entire point of this episode, in essence, is kind of all wrapped around the shield being repaired, right? Not only is it the symbolization of Captain America repairing himself and potentially repairing what was damaged of him being captured and taken away, something I didn't mention in that video but wish I really did, the symbolism behind it, but it also sort of reflects the idea of that shield being repaired as mending the Avengers as a whole. As we see throughout the episode, Hawkeye is pretty pissed that Black Panther essentially abandoned him, especially because Hawkeye was somewhat close to T'Challa, that he kind of just spends a majority of the episode challenging T'Challa for the throne, which is kind of hilarious, but at the same time, T'Challa pays almost no mind because he just understands that's how Clint Barton is. The shield being repaired, though, for me represents the Avengers being healed. It represents T'Challa finally being able to put trust once again into something that isn't just Wakanda, once again feeling like he is ready to open himself up not only to the world, but to the Avengers. Something that took him a lot of personal struggle to do previously, even if it was in more personal benefit beforehand than it is now. Because I would argue that right now, it is actually to a little bit of his detriment to be willing to trust the Avengers again and to leave his own people, especially after an incident like the Skrull invasion. Again, a minor deconstruction of T'Challa's character when it comes to his somewhat deceitful nature.
A plan that could not have worked in the absence of my teammates. My fellow Avengers.
I like the sound of that.
Me too.
All right, T'Challa, all right.
So that was episode 14 of the season, and it takes 10 more episodes before T'Challa has any sort of thing that he does that is meaningful in any sort of way, as we're quite literally coming close to the end of the show in its entirety. T'Challa himself is basically been doing his usual thing, being the wise king, the spiritual leader of the team, grounding himself in reality. And to give you guys a quick catch up as to what's going on right now, the Skrull and Kree war has placed Earth in the epicenter of what is essentially a deadly war between the two factions, and since the Avengers are the protectors of Earth, they must try and stop the Kree, who are trying to claim Earth as their own. And the only way to stop the Kree is to go to their homeworld and take down their central intelligence. In trying to do so, T'Challa has to open up a wormhole that will not only be able to transport the Avengers to the Kree homeworld, but unfortunately would be required to be manually piloted by somebody. And T'Challa ends up deciding that he will make this sacrifice for the team, believing that it has to be him. For T'Challa, this is the ultimate sense of not only protecting Wakanda, but as he says, protecting his friends. Because at the end of the day, well, it seems a little bit rushed from their end, T'Challa has finally decided to embrace being an Avenger, to embrace the team around him, to truly trust them and to care for them, something that we have seen he has struggled with so mightily throughout a majority of this second season, and something that he had to learn how to in the first season. T'Challa's whole character arc throughout this second season of the show is all about fractured trust, and how do you repair said fractured trust. Now granted, I wish they would have spent more time on it, as I feel like it would have been more interesting than whatever Wasp had going on this season, but unfortunately they don't. At least what they gave us was pretty decent, and you know something is good when you are left wanting more of it rather than saying it was too much, if that makes sense.
I only do now as my father did. I protect Wakanda. But unlike any other Black Panther, I have had the privilege of doing it by your sides as an Avenger.
Oh, and spoiler alert for like a decade-old show, T'Challa doesn't stay dead, alright? Like, they hype him up to have this amazing death scene, and they give him this really dope speech at the end of it, and it really feels like a climactic ending for the character, which, again, would have been really dope, but this is a kid's show, and I don't know if they were allowed to really kill off one of the main characters, let alone, like, the only black main character in the show. Definitely would have been an interesting choice to have him die, even though I feel like it's totally in T'Challa's character. Regardless of all of that put aside, T'Challa himself doesn't really end up truly dead. Instead, he escapes it because that's just kind of who he is. And outside of that, that kind of just wraps up the end of T'Challa's character arc for this entire show. He gives a basically science fiction MacGuffin reason for surviving that I'll let you guys listen to here.
But as the Kree wormhole opened, just as I assumed you were taking action to destroy it from within, the Falchion detected the presence of a ship on the other side of the wormhole. As the wormhole began to collapse, once I was certain the sun was out of danger, I used the Falchion's teleporter to follow you through. The Falchion had locked on to the largest of the Kree ships, And once on board, I began to make my way to you. You were not difficult to find. As always, my friends, you make far too much noise.
And that's pretty much it. As much as I really loved not only the voice of T'Challa in this show, something I find is highly, highly underrated, I also really enjoyed his presence. Every time he was on screen, despite not having a lot to do, nor some episodes nothing to say at all, I always felt like he was there, and I always felt like his wisdom was appreciated in the moments he was given to shine. I really wish he would have had more moments to shine, but as I said previous, that's just not really who T'Challa ever was, especially when it came to the Avengers. He was much like Batman, where it was more touch and go. Well, older Batman, let's correct that. Modern Batman is pretty involved with the Justice League, but much like an older Batman who wasn't as involved with the League and was more of a part-timer. That's how I see T'Challa in this show, almost like a part-timer to the Avengers, because he has to take care of Wakanda at home. And I think the idea of giving him a story arc regarding around fractured trust, much like he did the rest of the cast, and while I feel like the rest of the cast had their fractured trust explored a little bit better, T'Challa's had a unique flavor to it simply because the dude had spent so much time trying to build this trust with the team, and as well going against his own people in building this trust and his own traditions, the words that he and his father have lived by, in order to shed all of that to receive help from outsiders, was a really profound story arc and a big thing for T'Challa, something we've seen play out a lot. So the idea of fracturing that and breaking it down is really cool. It's a really novel idea and a great concept that I wish they spent a little bit more time on, but I understand why they didn't. Alright, so this was supposed to be Iron Man this week. I really wanted to knock him out because I'm pretty sure that video was going to be very long, but due to some time constraints and I really want to get this video out on a specific day, I decided to cover Black Panther. Originally I was going to save him for last because I had imagined that I wouldn't have much to say about him. It'd be a stupidly short video, and that I'd end up frustrated like I was at the end of my previous Black Panther video. What I ended up finding was that sometimes it's okay to just appreciate what you are given, and that it's okay that you weren't given the character to their fullest. As much as it sucks, at least what we did get was high quality, even if it was sometime in the smallest quantity. And I think that rings true for this show as a whole. Earth's Mightiest Heroes is way more about quality over quantity, whether it's with the characters, the art style in my opinion, or just about anything that this show dealt with. It only lasted 2 seasons, typically having, I think it was 26 episodes per season, so we got just over like 50 to 52 episodes in total of the show, and yet it is done extremely well. We don't feel that it was drawn out and wasted its potential like, I don't know, The Flash or Arrow on the CW, where it just went for way too long. This show ended on top and at its prime. It ended when it was, well, I'm not going to say extremely popular because it's more of a cult classic. It ended when it was still doing its best work and its best job. And that's something I'll always appreciate this show for doing, is going out on top. I would never want to see it degrade and become worse. It'd be like if LeBron played till he was 50. I want to see LeBron retire at the top of his game because right now the dude is still so generational. And with all of that being said, I just want to take a moment to thank you all so much for watching this video. It is truly appreciated. Your viewership continues to help me make better content, so thank you all so much and I appreciate it. Once again, thank you for your viewership. It is truly appreciated. Now it's time for me to do my YouTuber thing. If you liked the video, please leave a like. It helps out the channel a lot. If you dislike the video, leave a dislike and then let me know down below in the comments why. Constructive criticism helps me to be a better creator for all of you. If you want to help support the channel, a simple subscription will do worlds of help towards pushing me out into the algorithm. If you want to go a step further and support me more, I do run a Patreon in which you can find all of my content completely unedited, as well as early, all on my Patreon. As well, I do run a Discord that you can join, and it's pretty much just a place you can interact with not only me, but other people who are fans of this type of content, and just DC and Marvel things in general. And as well, it's all for about $1 a month. And if you are in the $5 or above tier, you get shouted out at the end of each and every one of my videos like these lovely people here. So shout out eSibert13, shout out Gabriel Lafonte, Transgears1, Video Gamer 75, Golden Boy 420, Dakota Rawson, Donovan Gomez, and MC Bomb 27. You all are amazing, and I hope you all have an absolutely fantastic day.